A client of mine nearly sabotaged the first 40K deal of his life. And the worst part is he didn't even realize he was about to do it. See, I host call-up calls every week with elite operators and founders that are training their execution. And he came to the call looking for a framework to accelerate his growth. He felt he wasn't moving fast enough. There was too much of a gap between when he thought he needed to be and when he actually was. And he described his situation as if something was falling apart. Then, almost as a footnote, he casually mentioned that he was about to close a 40K deal the next day, which would give him the best financial month of his life. So this video is about what happened on the call, the pattern underneath it, and why you can't catch it on your own. Because the most important asset for your business is not in your business, it's between your ears. And just to be clear, this is one of the most impressive founders I've ever worked with. I've seen him personally build 2 separate 6-figure businesses from 0 to above 30 to 40K in 2 years. I've seen that happen twice. He lost everything on his first business for change in the industry and regulation, so he couldn't continue running it. But that affected him dearly, but he was able to build a second business. And right now he's in the best stretch of business he's ever had. Revenue's up, pipeline is strong, and he is objectively, because we track every data point, the best operator he's ever been. And he was about to close his first 40K deal, paid in full. But none of that was with what he led with in the call. He led with the gap, with the frustration, with the sense that something was wrong. And it wasn't until I asked him, has something gone wrong? No, everything is actually better, that he realized the mistake. And the problem is his brain was running what if everything goes wrong kind of loop, even if he had a lot of recurring revenue. And he admitted that it was going on. And this is why he was risking this 40K, because he was spending the most important time, instead of prepping for the call, trying to diagnose problems in his head that didn't even exist. His intention was locked on looking for a fire that didn't exist, because that's what the brain does. The brain is constantly scanning for threats, and that needs to be rewired. Otherwise, it can sabotage any meaningful progress that you do in your life. And if you ever felt going to a big stage or big call and you felt something felt off and you couldn't figure out why, keep watching, because I'm going to tell you exactly what is the cause. Now, why would a founder who is objectively smart, objectively hard work, has a track record of success, show up to an important event like that? Well, it happens to all of us. How many times have you worked 10 hours per day but felt that only 2 were productive? Or you knew exactly what needed to be done but you didn't do it? Or you started there with a plan but then by noon that was totally gone? Well, that's not a you problem. That is a human problem. It's a founder native problem. And it's not rooted in a lack of discipline. It's rooted in a lack of capacity, because the brain has a finite number of processing power. And every unmet decision, every conversation, everything that you need to deal with creates load on your brain. And the more overloaded your brain is, the lower its capacity to deal with it, the worse it works. If your load really goes beyond your capacity, at some point, you stop being able to work on the right things. You stop being able to execute on what matters. You start wasting time avoiding the hard work and just procrastinating. And falling back to your default wiring, to threat detection, to vigilance, to scamming for what is wrong. And that's the problem. That is why so many founders operate way below their potential. It's not an IQ thing. It's not a hard work thing. It's not a discipline thing. It's literally a brain, a nervous system that haven't yet rewired to look for the positive signals that things are going the right way, and is instead hell-bent on finding the small things that might not be up to your liking and make a huge fire out of those. Think of it as smoke detector who was once in a house fire, and it gets recalibrated for that fire, and now it goes off every time you try to make a toast. The alarm is real. You hear it, your body responds, you react, but there's no fire, and your brain cannot tell the difference. And that's what has happened to my client, because he had already lost it all once. So now he kept running that failure scenario in his head, thinking that at any point things could collapse again. And the thing is, this is a pattern that just mutates as you scale. At 30K a month, well, that threat response is very raw. You hesitate before sending invoices, or you check your Stripe 6 times a day, or whatever. But at 500K a month, you just avoid hiring, or just avoid showing up to events, or you push initiatives to the next quarter just to be safe. But there's a way out. which is regulating your brain and nervous system, which is understanding how to train the brain to see reality for what it is, not for what our threat response says it looks like. The problem with this is that it is very hard to catch this on your own. Sure, some founders do eventually learn it, but that costs enough pain, enough lost deals, enough years of the same cycle. Some develop the ability to catch that threat state before it runs them, but it takes decades. The cost is humongous. The best operators, they don't wait for that. They literally train it. They treat their nervous system and brain like infrastructure, as seriously as their sales process, their financial model, their tech stack, because their job is to make consistent, effective decision. And the gap between a guy who figures this out after 10 years of expensive mistakes versus one who installed this in a few months of dedicated training is millions, if not hundreds of millions in potential revenue. And my client is proof. He reads, he thinks, he reflects, he works hard. He's very, very smart, but he still at that moment forgot about this fundamental truth. That's how deep this wiring goes in us human, and especially us founders who are constantly dealing with humongous stress. Now, before you ask, he closed the deal. He showed up on the call and he eventually made the offer and he got his first $40,000 paid in full. But that happened because of the work he had done in the past, but also because he never sabotaged himself. He went into that call in a calm, well-regulated state because we were able to catch that before it happened. And as I said, you can't see these patterns by yourself. They're literally blind spots in your mind. If you want a proven system to train this in 3 to 4 months and do the same progress on your brain that you would do in 10 years otherwise, go below. See you in the next video.